All right, let's dive right in. What is religion's real job? And for a second, let's just forget about gods, forget about scriptures, all of that. I want you to think about religion more like a piece of technology, a tool that's been designed to do a very specific job for us, for human society. So, what exactly is that job? So, okay, if religion is a tool, what's it for? Well, there's this group of sociologists, they're called functionalists, and they think they've got the answer. And honestly, it's pretty elegant and maybe a little surprising. It's like they think they've cracked the code on what religion is really all about.
So here's their big idea. They argue that religion is basically humanity's solution to two huge universal problems that we all face. Problem number one, how in the world do you get millions of basically self-interested people to cooperate and build a stable society? And problem number two, how do you help all those people deal with the chaos and the total uncertainty of life? Let's tackle that first one, the whole social order thing.
Okay, so our investigation is going to start with a pretty famous sociologist, Emil Durkheim. What he did was he went and studied an Australian Aboriginal tribe, the Arunta, because he wanted to find the absolute bare bones essential ingredients of religion, in its simplest, most basic form. And what Durkheim found was that the Arunta world was basically split right down the middle. On one side, you had what he called the profane, the ordinary, everyday, mundane stuff. But on the other side, you had the sacred. These were special objects, specific places, certain rituals that held this incredibly powerful shared meaning for the entire tribe. And this is where it gets really interesting. Durkheim realized that by focusing on these sacred things, religion was actually doing four super important jobs for the community. First, it taught discipline. It stopped people from just acting on their own selfish impulses. Second, it built social cohesion, bringing everybody together through these shared rituals. Third, it kept traditions alive, passing the tribe's core values from one generation to the next. And finally, it gave people this incredible, euphoric feeling, a reminder that they were part of something way, way bigger than just themselves.
And all of this led Durkheim to a really powerful, kind of mind-blowing conclusion. He realized the totems, the gods, they weren't the real point. He argued that these sacred rituals were really just a way for the society to celebrate and strengthen its own collective power. So in essence, religion was literally society worshiping itself.
Okay, so we've seen how religion can act like the glue that holds a society together. But what about its job for each of us as individuals? This brings us to our second big clue, the idea that religion is like a psychological anchor, helping us find meaning and just cope with stress. So for this piece of the puzzle, we're going to look at the work of an anthropologist named Bronislaw Malinowski. He was studying the Trobriand Islanders, and he noticed something absolutely fascinating. See, when the islanders went fishing in these calm, safe lagoons, totally predictable, there were no rituals, none. But when they had to go out into the dangerous, unpredictable open ocean, that's when they performed all these complex religious ceremonies. I mean, the conclusion here is pretty clear, right? Religion seems to step in right at the moment we feel like we're losing control. It has this powerful psychological job. It calms our fears, it settles our anxiety, and it gives us a sense of stability when we're up against things that are dangerous, uncertain, or just plain unexplainable. Things like birth, death, or a massive storm out at sea. Okay, quick recap. Religion is society's glue, and it's a psychological anchor for the individual. Got it. But here's a wild thought. What if you could get all of those benefits without any gods at all? This, my friends, is where our whole idea of religion is about to get blown wide open.
So another sociologist, Robert Bellah, comes along. He takes Durkheim's big idea that society worships itself, and he applies it to the modern world. He came up with this term, civil religion. And it's basically his way of describing what happens when a nation's own identity, we're talking its symbols, its history, its core values, when all of that stuff becomes sacred.
And Bellah's go-to example was Americanism. I mean, just think about it for a second. It has sacred symbols, right? Like the flag. It's got revered texts, like the Constitution. It's got saints, like the Founding Fathers. And it has these powerful unifying rituals, like singing the national anthem. It functions in almost the exact same way as a traditional religion, creating that glue, that shared meaning, for a huge, diverse group of people. And this whole idea can be taken to a real extreme. Take this quote from Italy's fascist leader Benito Mussolini.
He's describing his nation not as a bunch of different individuals, but as a single, unified, spiritual body, all bound together by a single will. That is a classic textbook feature of total, all-in religious devotion. In fact, if you just take the core qualities of a traditional religion and you map them onto nationalism, the parallels are absolutely stunning. The all-powerful divine entity, that becomes the nation, or the people. The solid doctrine with all the rules, that's your constitution or your national myths. And that promise of immortality, well, that's taken care of by national heroes who live on forever in the collective memory. And this quote from an American naval officer, man, it just captures the essence of that total devotion perfectly. Right or wrong, our country. That's an unconditional commitment. It goes beyond simple logic or even ethics. It's a type of faith. And that kind of faith is central to both powerful religious belief and really passionate patriotism.
So, okay, it's not really a simple case of traditional religion over here and civil religion over there. The reality, as always, is way more mixed. It's probably better to think about it like a spectrum of authority. On one extreme end of that spectrum, you've got societies where a divine, supernatural authority is the absolute, ultimate source of all power and all meaning. Period. Then, somewhere in the middle, and this is probably where most societies on Earth actually are, you find a blend. You've got both godly and civil authorities sharing power and influence. Sometimes they work together and sometimes they're competing. And then, all the way on the other end of the spectrum, you have societies where the nation-state itself is the highest power. The civil authority is totally supreme, and your ultimate obligation is loyalty to the country. Okay, so this brings us to one last really powerful idea. And this one pushes our definition of religion even further, taking it right out of the history books and putting it smack dab in the middle of our own daily lives. There is this other sociologist, Thomas Luckman, and he talked about what he called invisible religion. His big idea was that the real essence of religion has nothing to do with churches or institutions. It's just that fundamental built-in human drive to find meaning, to be more than just our biological selves. He said it's just part of being human. And look, if that's true, then suddenly you can start to see this kind of religion absolutely everywhere. Think about the unwavering devotion of a serious sports fan, or the all-consuming culture inside some companies, or the passionate, fervent belief of a political activist. All of these things can do the same job. They provide discipline, they create cohesion, they give meaning, and they offer that amazing sense of being part of something bigger. So this really brings the whole question right back to you, doesn't it? If you look past the traditional ideas of gods and scriptures, what is it that really functions as a religion in your life? What are the communities you're truly devoted to? What are the symbols and the rituals that give your life order and meaning? I think if you really think about it, the answer might just surprise you.